How did you find out that you had a learning disability? Was in your early stage when you're like in the middle school or when?
Yeah, actually elementary school. I remember in 5th grade. Again, they probably knew something, but I didn't have like the earliest memory that I have of me struggling in school was 5th grade. Before that, I don't remember. I can't think back like, oh, I remember this day in 4th grade where I struggled. No, in 5th grade is when it started really like shining, and they started, I guess the school system back then wasn't prepared for that type of, stuff yet as they are now. So they started kind of separating the class and putting some of the kids that were, were struggling with reading or any learning disability. They would put us like in a book room or whatever and just had a special teacher try to, dedicate a little more time to a smaller group to teaching us at a slower pace or whatever. And that's when I started realizing, there's something going on here because they're not keeping me in the regular class with the regular kids,
Did you get bullied a lot?
From teachers?
Or from your
friends?
No, I didn't really experience too much bullying, but thankfully, like, I've always, I'm not going to say tough, like in the word tough, I've never been a guy that's just like been pushed around easily or any of that, So throughout my whole life, even though I've had that, I was raised by like my dad, and my dad was always, don't let no one pick on you, don't let no one bully you, don't hit no one unless they hate you. So I was always had very good principles as I grew up. So I never bullied, and I never let no one bully me, So I was always very respect both ways, I always expected respect towards me, and I wasn't scared to fight. I was never scared to fight. As you guys know, I'm into fighting, and I like training in fighting. So
Chico also has ADHD, right?
Yeah, I had
and
ADHD.
Dyslexia.
Yeah, also dyslexia. I've been through my whole life, like with this learning disability.
No.
Was very tough for me. I couldn't learn like the other kids. My whole life I struggled, frustrated. How do you say bomba in concept uma bomba? In English?
He failed in school. He repeated the year.
Third grade. I repeat the year on the 3rd grade, and all my good friends, the friends that are closer to me, they was 1 year ahead. So I always had this sense of I was like a dunk. Is that dunk? I was like feeling like a dunk. I couldn't learn like the other kids.
I get it.
And you're
I got bullied.
Yeah.
I got bullied from my family, from friends, even from a few teachers. But one of them, she put give me names like a dunk or you stupid. You never. Yeah. But like you said, back then they didn't have this. They didn't have this information that it could be a disability. Yeah. So I had a tough time back then. But when I noticed was when your mom was here, right?
Yeah, that's why I asked you when you found out that you had a learning, let's say, disability.
Right.
I say it's not a disability. You just have, I say, having ADHD or any learning disability.
It gives us more ability than anybody else.
Yeah.
Of course.
So
No,
you
I'm
were
convinced.
artistic.
Yeah.
I'm not artistic. I learn normal, but I'm not artistic at all.
She says she can do what we do.
Right.
So I think you
Well,
actually have an advantage on that side.
Of course.
And Chico got diagnosed when he was,
29.
30 or something?
Yeah. First year your mom came.
You were 29 then.
Yeah, 29.
Yeah, so exactly. So I got diagnosed when I was in 5th grade. So people knew what was going on, so I didn't get bullied. So it wasn't like, oh, this guy's dumb. They had an understanding of what was going on, so they were more sensitive to the situation versus you. People just thought, what's wrong with this guy? He can't read, or whatever it is. And for me, it was different because they knew, so they were sensitive to. They tried to help. I went to many tutoring, and and
You had
my
support.
parents drove me over here actually to Deerfield to a special center, which they worked with your vision and how your vision connected with your
the
brain. And it was, I would just leave there crying because it was so frustrating. But as a kid, you're like, I don't understand. Like you said, why am I different? So.
And I noticed, I've been teaching, right? You know that I've been teaching barbers around the United States and here in Coconut Creek at Invictus Barber Academy. I noticed from 10 barbers, 8 have dyslexia or some type of ADHD. Why is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've learned throughout that, I think it's, the right brain, left brain thing. And we are, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but I know we are the side that's more artistic, you know, so we lack, I guess, you know, on the side that we're, you know, that has to do with the reading and all of that. So I think it's right-brained, this is what they call it, but when you're more artistic.
What do you feel? What are the symptoms? Let's see if it's the same as mine.
Well, I mean, definitely I invert letters and numbers.
And
you know,
symbols.
in symbols, exactly. So sometimes I'll be writing the word dad and I'll write bad, you know. So like stuff like that, you know, like, and then when I'm reading, sometimes I invert the letters, so I'm reading words that are not on the page.
Sometimes you're trying to say something that you wanted to say something, but when you speak out,
Right.
it sounds different.
You
and
say
it's
different
say
words
different
that you
words.
meant.
Did it happen with
Right,
you too?
Right, yeah, of
It's the
course.
same. I had a big issue like reading. Now it's 100 times better because I trained my brain to read.
Yeah.
So I'm reading faster. I can observe more. Absorb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absorb more from the content. But it doesn't affect our, in general, our intelligence.
Correct.
So we all are artistic.
You just need a different
Method.
method to read and write. It's not the traditional method because each person is different. And now finally, recently, schools are understanding that. Not everybody learns the same way. Some prefer are visual, some listen, whatever. There's different ways you can teach
course, yeah.
kids. But by the time Tico was a kid in a small city, they have this system. Either you do that way or you fail. And he failed.
And there's many barbers that are listening to us right now and watching us. They feel like very frustrated with the same thing we are. What do you have to say to them? Let's say.
Well, I mean, I mean, that's good you brought it. And I also wanted to bring up, I failed 5th grade as well. They held me back. So I had all the same feelings as you did, where all my friends moved into high school. They left the school altogether, and I stayed
stuck.
5th grade, and I was like, all these, you know, and you're in 5th grade, like all the little kids are coming into your class, and you're like, oh no, you know. But they're some of my best friends today, you know. So, and before I get into what you asked me, I'm also, you know, a big believer in God today. So, like, more importantly than everything, I mean, God has a purpose for our lives, and even with this disability, this is nothing. This is exactly what we're, you know. I feel like today I understand that it's perfect for me, you know.
Yes.
God has me right where I need to be, you know, with my disabilities and all. It's just gonna be, we're gonna be inspirations. This is what we're doing
Exactly what I was going to say. With our experience, what we lived,
Yeah.
now we can teach and help other people with the same problem, with the same situation, you know.
today. Definitely. And you had asked me, so what was the question? I'm sorry.
The question is, there's a lot of barbers that are watching us right now, and they going through the same. How do I say?
They could have the same struggles.
The same struggles.
Yes.
What do you
Yeah,
would
I mean,
say?
and I'm gonna kind of put the question, especially for the younger barbers, the young kids that are, you know, potentially coming out of high schools or going into these barber programs throughout the world, and they're going to, you know, barber schools because they might be struggling in school, and they're, you know, they can't go make it to a college, because that's what happened to me. I went to college and, you know, did all the art classes, and I was, you know, getting A's across the board in art. And when they told me, okay, it's time to go take science, reading, and math, I was like, I had to, obviously, you know. And that's when they were like, look, sorry, I think you're not cut out for school, you know. So if you're facing a situation like that, you know, and I think both of us, you know, it's just keep pushing forward, you know. Definitely, like you just said, like, start reading, you know. That was a big thing. I wish someone would have really pushed down my throat. And my parents did their best to try to force me to read. And now that I'm older, I understand the importance of it, you know. And reading maybe stuff that you're interested in, finding something that really interests you and start reading that, because that's the easiest for me to read. If I can stay interested, I can read it.
You can
know?
focus.
Yeah, I
also.
can focus on it because I like it. Like, for example, I like boxing, I like MMA. So if you give me an article about that, I'm more likely to read it than if you give me an article about, you know, baking cakes.
Science, yeah.
You know, because I'm not going to get into baking cakes. I'm not into it, you know. Or I love cutting hair. So if you give me something that has to do with cutting hair, I'm more likely to read the book, you know. Even though I struggle reading it, but I'm going to make it happen because I'm interested in learning about it.